You're listening to Systemic Era Podcast. The failure was designed.
The system is rotten dirt and millions of Americans want to burn it all down, based on an article by John Stoker. Max Miller is not the story. Impunity is. Power, not scandal. The reporting centers on Max Miller's domestic dispute and the ugly allegations around it. That matters only insofar as it exposes who has the power to shelter him. The president has his back. The Republican conference has his back. That is the institutional fact pattern. And it is the whole story, a party apparatus willing to absorb conduct it would never tolerate from anyone without connections. The article's real subject is not a single congressman's character. It is the machinery that decides whose behavior becomes disqualifying and whose becomes complicated, personal, or something to work out. The party chose sides. There is no mystery here. Miller's survival does not depend on whether his conduct is defensible. It depends on whether the people with leverage want to defend him anyway. Trump signals support. House Republicans follow. That is how power works in a modern GOP. The leader's indulgence becomes the party line, and the line is to treat obvious disgrace as background noise. A competitive district may still punish him. That would be an electoral consequence, not moral accounting. But the article is right to show that internal Republican pressure is negligible. When the family of the alleged victims is saying he has no place in Congress and the rest of the party still circles the wagons, the institution has already made its decision. Propaganda is not the whole explanation. It is tempting to explain Miller's behavior as the product of a right-wing bubble, a sealed information environment in which accountability never arrives. That may be part of it, but it is too small an explanation. The deeper problem is that elite impunity has been normalized across American life. The story points backward to the 2008 financial crash, when banks that wrecked the economy were rescued instead of punished. That was not just a policy failure. It was a public demonstration that high-status misconduct could be monetized, cushioned, and forgiven. Once that lesson was absorbed, the rest followed naturally. Wealth as insulation, influence as armor, consequences as something for other people. The real misdirection. The most revealing reflex in this kind of coverage is the urge to treat deliberate harm as if it were confusion. That is how systems evade responsibility. They turn abuse into a bitter domestic dispute. They turn political protection into neutral process. They turn a party's choice to stand by a man like Miller into a test of willingness rather than a straightforward endorsement of tolerance for abuse. The article is strongest when it stops pretending the problem is a single bad actor. The weakness is in any lingering hope that electoral defeat alone can solve it. Elections matter, but they do not substitute for enforcement. A party can lose one race and still preserve the culture that produced the offender. Law for everyone else. The argument that matters here is not sentimental, it is institutional. If elites can do whatever they want until voters occasionally stop them, then the republic is just a periodic permission structure for impunity. That is not law and order. It is selective enforcement dressed up as constitutional life. The next Democratic president, if there is to be a functional Democratic coalition at all, is to treat impunity itself as the target, break monopolies, seize ill-gotten gains where the law allows, prosecute white-collar crime with the seriousness usually reserved for poor people and protesters. Otherwise the message stays the same. If you are rich enough, connected enough, or shameless enough, the system will negotiate with you. The pattern behind the partisan noise. Miller is a symptom, not a singular exception. Trump is the louder symptom. The disease is a political economy that teaches powerful men they can hurt people, lie openly, accumulate fortunes, and still expect protection from the institutions that are supposed to restrain them. That is why stories like this keep recurring, not because Americans are confused, but because the governing class has spent decades proving that consequences are optional at the top. Until that changes, the scandal is not that men like Miller keep failing upward. The scandal is that the system has made that outcome feel normal. You've been listening to Systemic Error. Thanks to AlterNet for today's article. With the automated voice of Reza, thanks for listening.